So yeah, just a preface. There is no ill will here. Me and Dr. Bonehead are friends. We have no problem with each other because I think sometimes when these things happen, it's very easy for the fan base to cause a division. And I know the male ego, okay? So I get how that stuff can get a little, a little testy. There's no ill will here. I made a video. I have obviously been highly critical of Tower of God's third season specifically. If you watch my content for a long time, you know this my problems really started with Tower of God in the Last Station, bled into season 3, and I haven't really been a fan of what's been going on of recent. And I've had a series of videos criticizing many parts of the series. I have criticized Baam. I think Baam is a huge problem and gets way too much focus. I've criticized the power scaling. I've criticized some of the side characters and their utility, how he's used them. And then we spoke about was he a little overzealous? Did he do too much with the blog post and telling us too much too soon? All those types of things. So it culminated in me making a video called Tower of Problems, where I was essentially like, why should I care anymore about any of this? There's no tension. Tower God has the fakest tension I have ever seen in my life. To the point, in the most recent chapter, Bam lost. He's bleeding on the floor, and I laughed like, this is not moving me. He about to get up and do some irregular nonsense. I couldn't even be like, oh wow, White just beat him. So we're gonna see what he had to say to my video, and then we'll just call it a day.
A little something like eeny, meeny, right from the beginning. Smoke a little pack, but the pack never timid. Church, but I'm seeing it. Curse when I'm winning. She need a new back. When it's back, I'ma bend it. Slap up some guinea. Pass me the henny. Watch a nigga black slipper yak, I'ma quit it. Swerve in the Benzie. Perfume is Fendi. Bobbin' move fast, real fast like I'm Ricky. Yes, 'cause I'm pretty. Came from the dirt. Showing up a nigga can't handle the work. Ooh, y'all, swing with it first. Young white girl like a rambo.
Nia D. Hemmings made a YouTube video talking about Tower of God that interested me. It caught my attention. I decided to watch it, and after listening to what he had to say, critiquing some of the aspects
Persona
of
5 in the
content
back
in Tower of God, I wanted to break it down and talk about it and sort of respond to it. Because Nia makes a lot of good points here, but there's also a lot that I sort of disagree with. I can totally see where he's coming from, but I have my own sort of opinions about what's going on, and I thought it would be interesting to sort of, debate with you all and just see what you all think and just talk about this topic, because it is something that I have heard people complain or critique before, and I think it would make for some good content. So before I even start though, go check out Nia D. Hemmings' YouTube channel. The link is down below. He has been making Tower of God content for a long time. Way longer than I have.
Was I live when he made this?
Tower of God
I was
YouTubers.
live.
So definitely go support him. I think we should encourage this kind of talk about Tower of God more, because,
Yes, Bam Stan, stop yelling at me, god damn
someone
it.
like me, my channel's entirely on Tower of God, and I tend to 99% of the time be like, Tower of God's the best, SIU is incredible and the best and the story is incredible. And when I say those things, I genuinely mean it. Obviously I'm biased, like pretty much my entire 90% of my channel is Tower of God based, and I obviously want people to keep watching my videos, so I'm not going to deny that,
Captain Tom to keep the
I
faith.
All
right, Miles.
I'm genuinely enjoying Tower of God now more than I ever have. Like, this to me is...
That's crazy to me. I believe what he says. That is a crazy statement to me. I don't know if I've heard anyone say that. One thing I would say is I think a lot of people have somewhat agreed that, okay, like, oh shit, have somewhat agreed that there's been a bit of a quality dip, but I'll listen to his reasons before I say anything.
Peak Tower of God content. Hopefully you go watch his video first, which I'll link down below, but I'm gonna go piece by piece here.
There's no danger in Tower of God anymore. There is specifically one current thing that's happening that could possibly occur that I think would give this situation a sense of dread, but otherwise, there's no tension and suspense in Tower of God, and I felt this way for a long time.
Nia starts by sort of asserting his point here, and that is that Tower of God has lost its tension. There's no tension anymore. He brings up Yama, he brings up Baam, basically saying there's no fear that there's going to be consequences or that something's going to happen to these characters because of the choice.
Or the consequences will be very minimal and nothing. After sometimes after a really big arc, and even though the hero saved the day, it's like, did they really win? Because maybe there was so much collateral damage and so much lost lives. If like Superman saves Metropolis, that you're like, did they really win? Or at the very least, this victory came at a big cost.
choices they make, and basically that they're going to win their fights, and the tension is lost. Now, he makes a good point about Yama. He basically talks about how Yama's back to full HP, the fight didn't even matter, he has the Fang now, and that's it, he's ready to fight. Now, the newest chapter does show that
Why is his picture of Yama so crisp? Why is it so HD? Why should it not be looking like that?
Yama did sort of still have some leftover consequences. I'm not going to spoil too much, though, for people who haven't just read the recent chapter that came out yesterday. But, aside from that, though, because that's not really too valid, it's just a couple of marks or whatever, I do agree that, I wish Doom maybe had some consequence. I wish that maybe when Doom gave Yama his Fang, maybe Doom had to sacrifice every piece of canine power he had, or I don't want to say that Doom dies, but something could have happened there. I agree.
It just seems like a very, very weird thing to have him get mangled. There was blotches of blood like he was ragdolled and dragged. And it's like, yo, here's his tooth. You good? Yeah, let's get it. It's just like, bro. That was so jarring. It completely killed any interest I really had of a rematch. The only thing that I'll say is, if it ties into Lopobia family head stuff and like Lopobia history, Doom's relationship with Yasaracha, things of that nature, there's still some intrigue there. But as far as the actual fight itself go, I'm not sure I care anymore.
But at the same time, I do think that the entire fight served a great purpose. It built up fantastic character development for Yama, because Yama's someone who operates based off of everyone else being afraid of him. If you're afraid of Yama, you cannot hurt him. It is impossible, right? And for the first time in his life, assumedly, Yama learned what fear was like. And just the entire dynamic of Yama, for the first time ever, being just absolutely beaten to a pulp. It doesn't matter that Yama's now back to fighting fit. What matters is that he was in that position.
I disagree with this point because I would agree with it if it was an organic fear. Where was this like, was I in over my head? Have I spent so much time in a cage amongst my own halberds, own people? This is the world. The frog in the well story? The same way. Well, shit, we talked about One Piece not too long ago. The same way Mihawk told Zoro, yo, you're a frog in the well. It's time for you to learn how big the world is. And he got washed. He was nowhere near it. Yasaracha had already implanted some type of fear Fang in him already from like years ago when Doom was running away with him as babies. It wasn't a genuine like, oh my god, I'm not strong enough. And then when he got the tooth in his chest, he's all relaxed again. I disagree with it. But it does matter.
And had to learn what it was like. He was always so used to being at the top of the fighting pit, top of the food chain, and then he realized, wait, I'm not. I'm insignificant to this greater predator. He was so used to being the predator, and he was.
Yasaracha is a beast tamer and a predator, apex predator.
And
what predator?
Also, he got to see that flashback with his father and Yasaracha, and you can totally see that when he comes out of that, he learned something.
Yeah, I admitted that already.
And again, in the newest chapter,
there's something that he saw his father do or say that gave him maybe it's a weakness, maybe it's a secret. I don't know what it is, but this is the only thing to me that remains to be slightly interesting about this conflict right now.
Doom even remarks on that. He based, again, I won't say too much more, but it's clear that Yama is a changed person. That affected him. So while I do agree that it's like, well, okay, I guess he's back to normal and we're going to have round 3. Like, okay, whatever. But I do think it served a great purpose regardless.
I've probably thought about this for a while, but I think the first time that it really hit me was when Godot, Yama's number 2.
Good looking young man.
As far as we concerned.
You know what I mean?
The strong slayer. So you would think that his number 2 is pretty competent. And he pulled up on Baam like, oh, why don't you fight me? And I'm like, oh, that nigga dead. And I'm like, oh, wait, why did I immediately dismiss the high ranker?
He then talks about Gato, and he references back during the Cage arc and how Gato was like the number 2. But the moment we find out that Baam is going to fight Gato, well, Rest in peace, Gato.
Also, that's like there's so much capping around this hard in the blog post. I don't know if you remember me, Simi, and Vince talking about, he's like, did he really beat the ranker? Because the ranker didn't use Halborn transformation. And like, did Bam use any Thorn, the Black March? None of that. And he still won. He just dodged and bobbed and weaved and palmed him. You know what I'm saying? So it was a bit of an accumulation of things that were happening too. So we got to keep that in. Sorry, I've been ignoring the chat. My fault. But yeah, just.
We know you're gonna lose. And I don't really agree with this because Baam didn't even win. Like, Baam didn't beat Gato.
He took his leg off! Yo, if I fight somebody and the fight's undecided, but you took my leg off, I lost.
Kansan fought Gato, and Baam just went in for the sneak attack and just cut off his leg. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't really think that's fair to assume. Like, even.
But you kind of I don't know if you're gonna go into this, but you kind of highlight my greater point. It doesn't necessarily have to be just a Bam overcoming the situation. All of the events around the world, the Tower of God, will converge to save him. Kansan will come in, and then he does something like shoot that. Or like Doom tries to turn him into a canine person. Oh, now what am I gonna do? I'm the eater here, so I'm gonna absorb your ability. And now I got this cutlery, this sword. Like, it actually strengthens my point.
Just after that, we see it takes Baam Kun and Rack to fight Delete, who's like a tier 1, like a tier 0
Bam didn't need help to beat that guy.
ranker, you know, like the lowest tier of ranker as far as I could tell. He's just a regular dude who's a ranker with a special sword.
And then he beat a ranker before. He beat him in conjunction with those three, and then he beat a ranker after the fact. Did Bam do this before he went to the wall or after the wall, actually? No, it'll be after the wall, because it'll be after Yasuracha pulled out with the fight with Yama. Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, so, I don't know. It's not really that Baam fought Gato and whooped him or anything. It's like, no, he just helped beat him.
But my point is that, instead of me being like, oh shit, a high ranker just pulled up on Bam, I'm like, shoulder shrug. Like, that's kind of my point. It's like, he'll be fine.
Say that the tension still wasn't there, and then if Baam and Gato did fight, Baam would win because he's Baam, and that's.
Do you guys remember Godot was doing things like, "Oh wait, I subconsciously held back because you're a regular. I won't do the like SIU, man. Come on, dog. Come on, baby."
What happened, you know? Like, Baam was struggling to even do what he did, which was fight with Kansan and land that blow. Now, I don't know. I agree that I see what Naya's saying. The Gato point to me didn't really make sense.
What a lot of people fail to understand is that it's hard for me to see Bam as inferior to those characters. As much as I understand he's not supposed to be on paper as strong as an Evankel and whatever the case may be, Bam is a monster. He's an irregular, and he might just evolve into battle. There's so many things that could happen.
So then Naya talks about Baam might just evolve. He might just, achieve this new power and beat White. So the main focus of the video is basically Baam and White. And I see what he's saying. Baam's an irregular. He's someone who has received a ton of power-ups throughout the series. Transformations and items and...
I didn't say this in the video, so he could never address this point, so I'm not gonna, it's fine. But I do want to preface that one of my biggest issues with the current version of Bam is that I find it to be one of the strangest decisions humanly possible to have a 2-year time skip in which a character is constantly training to learn new things with Evankel, Hansung Yu, him going from battlefield to battlefield, to have him I'll give you the one time where him and Karaka used the palm to wake up Yama. He's not reflecting on his own training and learning and doing these attacks or pulling out things that he learned from Evankel. He is just learning and getting random power-ups after he just had a training arc. Like, why haven't I got a chance to see him flex all of those things he learned from the various battlefields and teachers that he had? Like, it is the strangest decision I have ever seen. Like, it's super weird. If Bam didn't train for those 2 years and this happened, maybe. But for him to do all that training to be like, okay, I got this cutlery, I got this shield, I got this arrow, Very, very weird decision in my opinion.
powers that can essentially completely change the course of the fight. And sometimes it happened in Deus
Now,
Ex
why is
Machina
this picture
moments. I
so
totally
HD,
agree.
bro?
My critique with
See,
this
that
is
was like normal.
Baam might just evolve like that argument. You could say that since chapter 25 of season 1, when Baam slices out Hwaryun's eye and everyone's shocked.
He's got to be there. That's a good point. I think in retrospect and in hindsight, I think I don't remember what video I said that I admitted this. I didn't say it in this video, so we couldn't say anything about it. He's right on this point. It's been ever present if you really go back and you look at it in hindsight and retrospect. He's always been that way to some degree. I think for me, I probably only really noticed it, and I thought it was egregious in the last station moving forward, because I would argue that a lot of times it did come with a bit of a lesson. I think the true self mode that he did against Dana Jihad came with a bit of a lesson. Like, yeah, you're this monster with all these things about you, but it's your power, and kind of learn to accept it.
You know, or Baam defeating the bull right at the end when Dorsey couldn't even, and Anak couldn't beat the bull. Like, this bull was insane, and Baam manages to muster up some irregular energy.
But also at this point too, sorry if I have to say this, at this point too, you have to understand that some authors are good at what I would say building a pattern and breaking it. For a time, maybe you're thinking, well, see, season 1, Baam doesn't come across as overpowered or anything, more so than he comes across as gifted. 2 is when you start to understand really like being an irregular is just some really, really super duper crazy feat. But I've had stories that build an expectation. The character usually wins this way. So let's say in 6 battles over the course of 120 chapters, it won a similar way. But the 7th time it didn't work. Oh, now you threw a monkey wrench into the formula. I would argue that maybe there was a point in my life, in reading Tower of God, I thought there might be a monkey wrench thrown into the formula, but he's only doubled down on no. A regular Baam win every fight, no matter what. So,
You could argue it's not irregular, but like my point is, even beginning of season 2, he has all these powers that come out of nowhere, you know, and he's able to beat a B rank regular like Reflejo, like as an E rank regular. Like you can sort of see that
he clocked with the wreck already at this point.
pattern way back when, because the point is that Baam is overpowered, and you can not like that. That's fine, but I don't really see how
he's definitely right. I whine about that, and and I always say stop arguing against a point in futility. He's right about that. I need to just get over it.
Now all of a sudden, or season 3 all of a sudden, it's like now it's kind of a problem. It's like, well, hasn't that always been the case? Hasn't Baam always been busting out these powers at the last second or gaining some kind of edge on his opponent? We see it with Jihad. We see it at the last station, you know, with the Black March. We see it a lot.
Well, the last station is when I started having issues with it personally. So,
for a second, you know, Baam has the souls. He has the red and blue Thrissa. He has 2 thorns from Enryu. He, you know, training from various dojos and
battlefields,
masters who trained him in Shinsu and martial arts. I'm probably forgetting half of what Baam has at his disposal. You know, Shinsu Black Hole Sphere training from the God of Guardians on the Hell Train. It's like
Flazer was capping.
Has a ton at his disposal. And if we look at someone like Adori,
No,
Adori, when she
not
was
strong.
climbing, was beating rankers, at least, you know, sort of further on in her climb. So, in my opinion, it's not that much of a stretch to assume that an irregular, like Baam or Yurik, would also be able to kind of be crazy during their climb, and especially if you have like 15 different transformations or power-ups at your disposal. Baam has never had tension. Because he's the main protagonist, you know? I feel like now there's even more tension than in the past, because at least...
Okay. This is an argument that I hear often with just people in general, where it's like, it's the MC. Of course the MC blah blah blah, or of course the MC has plot armor or things of that nature. And the reason why I have always vehemently disagreed with this point is because I experience a myriad of narratives, from a webtoon to a manga to a video game to a movie, what have you, where if a main character is put in a situation that is very dire, the way in which they get out of that situation is very believable to me. Or it came at a great cost, or the person who came to save them, it made sense because of X, Y, and Z factors. And I have seen a couple of series where, in a lot of ways, the main character fails or dies. I've seen narratives where the main character somewhat changes. I don't want to really spoil this, but in Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles, we essentially change main characters at some point because of something that happens. Like you can't just use the argument main character MC, you good. Like no tension. It shouldn't be that way. I can't get behind that. I can't.
There could be consequences, and I've always said this. I don't want Baam to defeat White, which is one of Naya's next points.
When I bring up this White versus Baam stuff, and people looking at you like, Miles told me keep the faith.
Shout out to Miles.
And I'm like, what faith? What are you guys talking about? White is dying. He's done. SIU, for whatever reason, maybe does not want him in the story, but Baam is going to beat him. If you think for a second that the legendary Slayer from the second generation and sucking up a billion souls, none of that matters no more. He's facing Baam. It's done. It's done.
White's gonna die because he's going up against Baam. It's like, I don't want White to die, but if something happens, the story writing, in my opinion, is what matters, because Baam has never had tension. We've always known Baam is gonna get out of his scenario or win out in the end somehow. It doesn't have to be a victory, it could be an escape or something, but there's never been tension. Like, he's the main protagonist. He has plot armor, So
I was scared for him when he went up against Dala Jihad. I was scared. I thought that would, because obviously he was going up against the data of another irregular, so maybe that's why. But I was scared for him. You remember that first time when he seen some monstrous thing and he freaked out? Like, yeah, I don't agree with the idea there was never tension. I just think that it became increasingly harder to believe in it after a while in time. I'm sorry, chat. I'm going to address you in a second. I just want to get through the video first. Like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell down so the Ghost of 13-month series doesn't get you. Follow me at Young Paperwork on Twitter. Look in the description for all the links to all my other channels and whatnot, like my archive page and my Twitch. Let's get back to the video.
I feel like it's strange, like now it's an issue when I feel like now is the time when there actually could be consequences. And there was consequences in the latest chapter. I don't want to spoil it, but if you know, you know. There was a consequence for Baam's actions. He has to learn that he can't just do what he wants. Now, this doesn't mean that Baam is gonna lose, although it doesn't look great for Baam right now. I have faith that Baam is gonna do something. I'm not saying he's gonna lose. But to assume that, like, there's no tension because it's Baam and he's just gonna beat White and that's it. It's like, well, how are we going to get there? And I personally want to have faith in SIU. This arc has had the best story.
I tried. I held on as long as I could. The faith is gone. It's dead, all right? It's as dead as my soul.
Storytelling, in my opinion, out of like almost any arc that I can remember, because it has so many characters. It's not just Baam. Lately it's always been just Baam. It's like so many characters, so many storylines, so many backstories and plot developments, and there's so much happening. I can point out, I'm thinking of 15 things that happened in the last 20 chapters since the hiatus, ended. It's like, this arc I feel like it's becoming peak Tower of God, in my opinion. And so, the fact that maybe Baam will finally start to have consequences seems great. And who knows if it'll be at the expense of White, but as long as it's done well, I don't know. We have to see.
That little phrase itself just strikes me as a little odd at the kind of like the white part, just because I would argue I think you can make the case that for White, he has been the most evil and in a lot of ways most devious character in Tower of God. He has been the most real-time villainous character we have gotten to experience, with one of the most devious feats in the tower by building up two kingdoms, making them go to war with each other and sucking up all of those souls. The man is evil. To have a character with that much implication just fizzle out with a whimper, I think is significant. I don't think you can just write it off as, well, as long as it's well written, it's fine. Like, that's one of the legendary slayers from the second generation that was stopped by a jihad princess. People put a lot of stock into that, and we spent a lot of time waiting for him to be complete to finally go crazy. And it's just so unfortunate. The moment he actually has agency in the story, he's moving. He's not reactive. He's proactive. He about to die.
See how it happens, I suppose. Like, I wouldn't want Baam to just absolutely destroy White. Yes, that would be bad, because White's a great character. It's like, I think it would be a waste. I think it'd be a waste if he even died. I don't want him to die. But at the same time, if it's done well, I mean, I don't know.
So he basically, his argument basically here is the execution. If the execution outweighs the conceptual problem, it's fine.
I think that's the best point that Naya makes, is that if Baam just beats White, then yes. It really depends on how it happens, in my opinion. But I just don't agree that there's no tension. It's like, there is tension. Just because Baam isn't going to die doesn't mean there can't be tension. There can be so much tension in so many other ways.
You're right. Death or losing a fight is not the only way to show consequences. A lot of people say, well, Baam could win, but what if he becomes a monster like White, loses his, goodness and morality? Which is all fair, but I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn about any of that. I really don't play. Baam's morality of what kind of person he is has never been a very interesting thing to me personally.
It doesn't have to be just because of Baam. Because again, ever since we first met Baam in Season 1, there's been no tension with his death. So I just think tension can be found in other areas.
If, for whatever reason, a lot of the Lopobia, like, top dogs and the family head comes through, that does come across to me as a very big deal and significant. So that's the only really big looming threat, danger thing that I think is happening, and that's the only thing that I think only sense of danger I felt in this series for quite some time.
Naya sort of ends the video by saying that the first real source of tension that he's felt in a long time in Tower of God is finding out that the Lopobia family is arriving, and I totally agree. I mean, I do think there's other massive sources of tension, like Mashani, with Jin Sung. I feel, dude, I don't know what Mashani's doing, but that to me is really scary. And Lyborik,
But like, the Mashani thing is intriguing. The Lyborik thing is interesting, but I wouldn't say it's like something that's causing suspense and tension. It's just, she's a schemer. Part of the Kun family, he's got Kun in him, and he seems to be a schemer too. So they're kind of, interested in that in their own right.
Said, do not underestimate Lyborik, dude. This guy is Adori's lapdog. He's one of Adori's number 2s, if not her number 2. This man has been around since the age of Genesis, freaking doing all kinds of schemes. Lyborik, you cannot underestimate Lyborik. I just don't really see how there hasn't been tension this arc. I feel like there's been a lot. Maybe not the most in Tower of God, but we've had people bite the dust a few times on the good side and the bad side. I think it could happen maybe a little more. But one way or another, I thought Naya's video was good. I mean, his video was short. I mean, I'm sort of really expanding the points he's making in this, like, twice, this video is over twice the length.
That's because there was almost no reason for me to go in such detail in that particular video, just because I speak about this stuff in my streams. And again, this was a series of me whining and complaining about things that were going on. It culminated in that video, and then I finally moved on to something else. Because remember, we had that really long stream with Milios that came through and stuff, where we were talking about all of that stuff too. So.
But I still think it's a great point. Some great points were made, and I do agree that if certain things happen, I wouldn't be a fan. But overall, Tower of God, in my opinion, has problems, but it's always had problems. And I feel like the problems in this arc are pretty small.
Well, no story is perfect. No story is perfect. Nothing is flawless.
Comparison. So either way, let me know what you think. I'm genuinely curious. I kind of rambled near the end, so I apologize for that. But a lot of thoughts, obviously, about the various things happening here. Like the video, subscribe. Thank you all so much for 60,000 subscribers. I can't believe it.
Congratulations on that, by the way. Congratulations on 60. Well deserved.
So thank you to each and every one of you. And thank you to my patrons as well for coming up with such amazing video ideas. I'm going to be working on a ton of them in the coming weeks.
Okay, so I think that's the end of that. Okay. Just to summarize some final thoughts here. Yeah, he honestly hadn't he hasn't said anything to sway any of my current opinions. I do think he had a point on the fact that if you really think about it in hindsight and retrospect, Bam has always been kind of unstoppable. Though I disagree with there was no tension with him. I think that started to decline further and further and went to the series. But hey, I always enjoy reacting to other people's thoughts and stuff and things of that nature. If this is something you would like to see me do more often with other, I guess channels and things like that, you just let me know. Congrats on 60K, brother. And yeah.